6:37 because of our region policy meeting, and Pledge of Allegiance, please.
We'll have to find it. No, she must.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. A motion to accept the really short consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any questions about agenda or minutes? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Public comment. Number one. For a second, we're just getting online.
No hands online.
Oh, thank
We do have
you.
Rebecca St. Peter and Rachel Casey online.
Perfect. All right, awesome. All right, hearing none, on to band directors. Oh, no, I did not. All right, we need to add 2 executive sessions. I know we don't try to typically do this, but there are 2 things that need to be, we need to talk about. There's a personnel and a student one that will be at the end before agenda building after public comment. So 9.5. Hey, Glenn. Thank you. All right, band director Samantha Adams trip proposal. We got our information in our packet.
Make a motion to accept.
Yeah, I know. Don't know what else we need to hear. I mean, that was a pretty
Make a motion.
thorough proposal. So,
Oh, you want to listen to it?
no, it's okay. Let's do it before we discuss.
I make a motion to accept the band proposal.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? Yes, now you may talk about the band proposal.
So my name is Samantha Adams. I am the band teacher here for 7th through 12th grade. And just one of the many things that is important to me is helping students get out of the school building experience with just anything in their learning environment. And music is one of those great things, and this trip I think will really help provide that opportunity for them beyond the typical trips we take in this area.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, no questions.
Has any survey gone out to the students or the families to kind of gauge level of interest?
So I did not want to mention any of this to the families or students in case that it was not approved. I didn't want to get their hopes up and then have them be pretty disappointed if we weren't able to do it.
Yeah. So that is part of your plan, is to reach out?
Yes.
And then is there a minimum requirement for the number of students that you would need to participate in the?
There's not.
Okay.
Awesome. Any other? Yeah, Matt.
So I noticed that you detailed the funding procedure, the 3 ways you do the fundraising. Is there a certain order that you're planning to do the fundraising of doing the funds first or doing fundraising first? What's the order that?
So I've already applied for a grant, and part of my budget for filling out our budgets for this year, I've added some money to help cover that. And then as far as the fundraising goes, it's going to be kind of like an all at once kind of thing. We have so far a different amount of fundraisers that are going to happen at different times. The first one that's coming up is going to be in October or November, and that's going to be an online music Slate store where students can buy personalized music items. And then in November, we're going to be working with the theater department to host a dinner show. We'll host the dinner, they'll host the theater, and hopefully raise some money that way. And then between November and April, fundraising ideas are still kind of up in the air as far as what we would want to do. There are a lot of other groups in the school who do fundraisers during that time, so we're trying not to kind of overwhelm the communities. So our next definite fundraiser would be our annual Beat Music fundraiser, which we've hosted 2 years previously now. So we would host that one as we normally do. And then come the end of April into May, we usually make quite a bit of money doing different parades and stuff. So that's just a look at this year. Future fundraisers are in the works for the summer and next year.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, exciting, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to hearing about it when it happens. All right, guidance team, share about the graduating class of 2026. 2025. My God, I'm ahead of myself. 2025.
And they're gonna be sharing on the
Okay.
screen, so I
Yep.
don't wanna move.
See, Cheryl? Yeah. See fine? What about if we took down the lighting? Right. There's that.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Is that better?
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Casey.
Hello, I am Casey Eastman. I'm one of the high school counselors. This is my second year here, so this is all about my first year. So, in the counseling department, there is myself. I am a counselor for grades 9 and 11. David Gale is the counselor for grades 10 and 12. Kim Ezzo is in the middle school for grades 7 and 8. And then we also have our school-based clinicians, Lance Jones, Julie Marsden, and Casey Pelletier. So this is just kind of like a roadmap of what different grades look like throughout the high school career. For academic, we really start like heavy on AP courses, dual enrollment courses in 11th grade. In 12th grade, we start our scholarship applications, continuing with those higher courses. In all grades, we really look at VSAC opportunities for all students, upward bound, referrals. We have Rachel Casey in our office who works with Gear Up. Each grade works with course selection. Every year we meet with all of the students on our caseload to go over like what they want their high school career to look like. What classes they want to take, where they kind of want to end up, whether it be, you know, Stafford in 11th grade or where they want to go to college. Any academic or attendance improvement plans as needed. We offer credit recovery courses in the summer for students who are eligible to like improve their grades from the year. And we also attend all EST, 504, and IEP meetings. For college and career and personal and social for our students, we work a lot with Stafford applications now in 9th grade as well as 10th with the new Stafford program that's open for 10th graders, the Tech Exploratory program. We work with different colleges to have the college and career fair to show our students what opportunities are available. We have a college fair here as well as last year we attended one at Castleton. Early college applications start in 11th grade for the early college program. We really ironed out a system for this last year where the application and requirements that they needed to meet for our department and deadlines and things, working with students on creating their resume, writing their letters. In 12th grade, working on college applications, working with students still who are in the early college program. Work-based learning is a big trend that we have throughout 11th and 12th grade as well. There are a lot of students who take pride in their participation in that program. For personal and social, there's a lot of different programs throughout their high school career. Two of the biggest ones, the Hobie Leadership Program, which is in 10th grade and works with a particular number of students. Last year we sent 2 students to this program. They were in workshops and worked together with students from all over the state. The girls' state and boys' state nominations, and our junior award ceremony, which honors several juniors. That's the day before graduation. And then just working with students on conflict resolution, any safety plans as needed, risk and threat screeners as needed, and short-term counseling with any students that may request or require it. This is the course progression. Really in 9th and 10th grade, it really starts with your basic 9th and 10th grade courses. And as you get into 11th grade and 12th grade, more AP, dual enrollment, honors courses, more room for electives. We have a lot of English electives. And then, of course, once any graduation requirement is met, any other course in that same department is an elective as well.
Hello, my name is David Gale. I'm the other high school counselor. I also want to take a moment to recognize we have to have Kathy Prescott as one of our school-based clinicians as well. I want to make sure she was recognized as well. So Zello is what we are currently using for our PLP platform. And it's an online platform that the students can use. They're using this during advisories. We assign different assessments and different skill surveys and those types of activities that the students can do that kind of help direct them in a path where they want to go, whether it be college, whether it be career, can help them on career matchmaker, their different learning styles, whether an auditory or a visual learner or a tactile learner, goals after high school, and also looking at career clusters. Like, hey, I really feel like, I like buildings, so maybe I want to look at architecture or construction or those types of things. I was playing around with it a little bit this week. It's a very, very robust system. And also resume builders on there as well. So students have a chance to actually start building their resume, putting things in there. So when they decide to go into the field or college, they have that resume already started. So the 2025 post-grad senior survey results, these were for our class last year. And as you can see, we had 81 responses. This is between Google form as well as paper and pen that we chased down the seniors to make sure they got it done. That's always fun. Out of the 81 respondents, we had 36 students tell us that they were planning on going to a 4-year college. We had 2 students planning on 2-year. We had 3 looking at CTE and technical training. We had 31 students planning on work full-time and 29 part-time. We had 3 students looking at the military, and we had 8 students who were undecided. So this just kind of gives us a baseline of like, what are we looking, where are our students looking after Fairhaven? Like, what do they want to do afterwards? Because a lot of the time, Casey and I spend with our students, our juniors, seniors, about like, okay, so what are your plans after high school? And what can we do to help get you there? Is a big piece of it. So our 5-year employment trends, as you can see, 2025, our full-time employment jumped up from 25 respondents to 31, so a lot more students are planning on working full-time. We also have a lot more students who plan on working part-time. So we have a lot more students going into the employment field directly out of high school based upon these numbers. Our military numbers stayed the same. We have 3 students in 2024 and 3 students last year planning on going to the military, and our undecided numbers stayed about the same. So that shows that we have some more students going into the career.
Quick question. If you have a student who is looking to work part-time but also pursue a degree, how are they counted?
Right. We didn't actually divide it as that. Like, are you looking at part-time and employment? At the same time, we were looking at either or, so they were not mutually exclusive.
So they couldn't check more than one
No,
box?
no. The way we designed it at this time.
This really
was
isn't
one
a
of
fair,
Excuse me?
this isn't a fair look, because so
That's
many
true.
kids
That's
that
true.
go to
When we-
college work for, I know for my own children, they all work part-time and went to college full-time. So
Right.
this isn't really a fair view.
That's true. So when the survey was designed, we didn't take that into account. Again, this is a survey that we are always constantly redesigning and looking at changing for next year, and that's definitely something that we're going to look to change for next year. So now our 5-year college trends. So again, 2025, we had 36 students say they're looking at a 4-year college. Our biggest year thus far in the last 5 was 2023, where we had 40 students looking at a 4-year college. So overall, our numbers for 2-year and CTE are down a little bit, but within range of where we have been for the past 5 years. Again, 2023 was our biggest year in the last 5 years of students looking to go into post-secondary education. So this is a map that we pulled together just to kind of look at some of the colleges that our students are going to. Obviously, the majority of our students like to stay in the Northeast. I don't know if it's because of snow, I don't know if it's because of weather, or they like to ski, but a lot of our students stay in the Northeast. We have one who went out to Wyoming Tech, for some CTE work out there. We have a few students who went down south to South Carolina, but the majority of our students that we attract have stayed up in the Northeast area. Sure.
So Gear Up is a program, as I understand it, for low-income students. And as I've experienced, college fairs tend to be attended by the less competitive institutions. They send their reps. What I want to know is, what are you doing for the middle-income students to have them look at competitive colleges and universities?
So can you give me an example?
Well, I mean, you've got somebody going to Yale currently.
That's correct. Yes, we had a student last year get accepted to Yale.
What are we doing to get more?
We are pushing our students to challenge themselves every day with their academic choices. And when we're looking at what colleges are looking for in our graduates, we're saying if you plan on going to a four-year college, you're going to want to take these more competitive classes, the APs, the dual enrollments. And we want to make sure that students are taking these advantage of extending their curricular experience while here at Fairhaven so they can be more competitive to those larger colleges.
It's like, for instance, does somebody take them through the Common App and go over their essays with them?
Yes. David and I both meet with our students in 12th grade to make their Common App account, go over the different pieces, add ourselves in there as counselors, and walk through each thing that they're going to need, when the deadlines are to submit it, things like that. And I also just wanted to add, our student that went to Yale for this year was also a Gear Up student. So Gear Up is also for other students, not just low income. There's different requirements that students can meet to be a part of the program and still be able to access those benefits. And Rachel's very good about advocating for her students, reaching out, building her caseload, and offering our students whatever it is that she can.
Do we offer any SAT prep? We do?
Yes.
Who does?
Actually, Kurt, I did a little bit last year.
With the Gear Up students?
No, with
Up or
anybody
down?
who wanted to sign up.
It was 6 weeks.
It was 6 weeks, and it was, I think, 12, 13 kids who signed up. Sometimes there was 15 in there, and it was 6 weeks of SAT prep, and it was whoever signed up.
Math and reading,
Yep.
right?
I was going to add to, I was going to also add, we still bring colleges in as well. Last week we had Dartmouth here. Last year we had, we had the help Miami. We had some Ivy League schools that came to visit with our students.
Thank you for the question. So now looking at our SAT averages for the last couple of years. I lost my note cards. Okay, so our SAT averages have, if you look at the line trend, they've pretty much stayed pretty standard over the last couple of years within the 1025 to 1062 range for the total average. The national average for the 2024-25 SAT was a 1024, so we actually were a little above the national average for this past year. And the reading, the EWRB, which stands for evidence-based reading and writing, our score was a 551, and the national average was a 519. The math score was a 512 for us, and the national average was a 505. So we are actually a little above the national average last year for our SAT scores across the board. The big question we get about SAT scores is, what's a good score? Well, the conversations we have is whatever the national average is, if you're a little above that, that's considered a good score, but it's all within context. You really need to look at what the college you're applying to considers a good score. So I can tell you one thing, but if you're looking at, Castleton versus UVM versus SUNY Adirondack, they're all going to look at what your score is differently. So it really comes down to what the context of your score is. Yeah. And then our 25-26 by program. So these are external programs, or not external, but extra programs that we offer. So for early college, we currently have 15 students in the early college program. Some of those are the majority are at Castleton. We have a few who are at CCV. And I've been meeting with my early college students this past couple weeks. Stafford, we currently have 44 students at Stafford, and that also includes, like Casey said, the Tech Exploratory Program, which is brand new this year. They said at the beginning of last year, they were only going to take 16 kids, and we actually had 4.
Oh, wow.
Which is what they told me at that time. I don't know if that was still accurate, but we had 4 students accepted at the beginning of that. The last 2 years, we've actually started building a relationship with the Patricia Hannaford Career Center up in Middlebury. We currently have 2 students up there. Dual enrollment, we have 22 students involved in dual enrollment. AP, we have 29 students, and like Casey said, our robust work-based learning program, we currently have 28 students in our work-based learning. And we're continuing to build the work-based learning with Ms. Eliza LeBrun, who's our coordinator. She's got her finger on the pulse of what that program is and how to make it better. So our 5-year trends of the program, so you can see early college is actually down a little bit from the previous year. It's gone from 26 to 15, but Stafford has gone up. Stafford has gone up from 30 to 44. Dual enrollment has had a major increase from 7 students in the previous year to 22 students this year. And AP courses have gone down a little bit from 48 to 29, and work-based learning has also gone down a little bit, but again, we're continuing to grow that program, and these numbers could potentially change depending on if students come in and add to the work-based learning program or some AP classes. Yes.
I'm just curious, like we went down early college from 26 to 15, but how many students do we have in 2024, 2025 versus 2025, 2026?
Overall class size?
Better. Right, yes. Yeah, like what's the percentage? Like, yes, maybe it went down, but not considering the total number of students, we don't know if that's positive or negative, or if it's just kind of maintaining.
So you're saying like within
Like if it's the seniors who can go to early college, how many
Right.
seniors did we have last year versus how many seniors do we have this year? Is it consistent or
I would say it's about consistent.
about the same?
What we're seeing, so last year, and I'm going from memory, but last year our graduating class was in the low 90s. This year, 84. So if we ran it as proportion, it'd still be a decrease, but it wouldn't be as significant as what you see here, just the raw data.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we, it's quite a loss of AP students. Are we losing AP certified teachers? Is there at least one AP class in each core academic area?
So this is not an AP class in science. AP physics didn't have an enrollment. We traded out an AP Calc for an AP Pre-Calc because of enrollment. We still have an AP US History, and we have an AP Psych and an AP Lit. So I think some of the decrease you see is probably twofold. One being that some students will trade in the AP tag for a dual enrollment. I think the other piece, probably more significantly, is the competition with early college. A lot of our AP programs are declining because those students who may have stayed here their senior year and loaded up on AP are going to Castleton.
Are we offering just plain calculus? That's not AP?
No, we're not. No.
Well, I know we had a teacher retire who taught that. We had a teacher retire who taught AP Bio. So in my memory, we are losing some teachers.
And I would make the argument, although I could see the counter to this argument, that dual enrollment is probably more empowering than AP. I say that based on a few different facts that, especially transferable facts like the credits and how they transfer to college. I also like that if we offer up a teacher as the dual enrollment teacher, which we have several of here, students can use their state voucher, or if we supply the teacher, the going rate of the class is about $180, $190. It might be creeping up to $200, but that's for a 3-credit course. So what a lot of families do is they'll save that voucher for 2 courses that they take at the college and then pay out of pocket for the $200 for a dual enrollment. So it's, in a lot of ways, financially makes sense to families.
AP is not a guaranteed college credit.
Right.
But dual enrollment, B and higher is pretty much guaranteed college credit. So I can see that argument too. Yeah.
Throughout the year, we have several workshops that we invite students and parents to. Our first one is coming up in October on the 16th. It's our college planning and VSAP scholarship workshop. It's open for juniors and seniors. We really focus on what you need to do for school. We go through the Common App, go through, who are we going to ask for our letters of recommendation? What is our resume going to look like? What things should it be on? What things should be on there? How many schools are we going to add? Where do we want to apply? Like all of those things that cross our mind, and letting students know when you're thinking about schools, think about more than just like a class. Think about all of the things that go into it. And then we'll also have the VSAC scholarship booklet, which is pages and pages and pages of scholarships available to students under several different circumstances. I know last year, like just flipping through, there was one available to only students who were residents of Benson, or students whose parents work at GE, or things like that. On November 19th, we are going to do a FAFSA and Vermont grant workshop, which is going to be open to all current seniors and their parents. I'm really going to encourage parents to attend this one, as we are going to be in the computer lab in Gina Chang's room with FAFSA right in front of us, and walk through step-by-step applying and what is all needed for that. We will be reaching out to parents prior to this workshop as well to get their FAFSA ID, because it can take a couple of days to make that ID active.
No way.
That's great.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news.
We'll still reach out just in case.
It's instantaneous now.
That's great.
Yeah.
So then they have all the information right there in front of them and can walk right through it. In January, on the 14th, we will have a workshop open to all current 8th grade to 11th grade students and their parents, to go through what courses are available, what they might want to look at taking. If they want to, end up at Stafford in 11th grade, what should they be taking now? What might they be interested in? Things like that. And then in February, we will meet with the seniors to talk about local scholarship opportunities. There are several. Last year, we had a significant increase in students who applied for local scholarships opposed to recent years. And I think that we're hoping to have this be an in-school day assembly, so that we can get a lot more student involvement and make sure that the seniors know of what opportunities are available for them. Did you have a question?
You kind of just covered it with that last sentence. I was going to ask, is this during the school day and just for students, or do you have anything similar that students can attend with parents? Because like something like FAFSA, or some, as a parent,
Yeah.
that's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So the college planning workshop, the FAFSA workshop, and the course selection workshop are all evening events, and parents and students are invited and encouraged to come. The local scholarship workshop we did do in the evening last year, and I think this year we're hoping to do it in the school day to get more of our seniors to be there. And then also for course selection, in addition to that workshop, David and I meet with every single student on our caseload to talk about what courses they're interested in, where they want to end up after school, things like that, and start planning their 4 years and as early as 8th grade.
We got one more question.
Okay, so our assembly that you would have maybe during school year this year, does that work for our kids who are at Stafford, who may still be thinking about college even though they've been doing Stafford? How are you working with those kids to kind of share what's happening and encouraging them, or not?
So Ben can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, when there's been assemblies or things like this that are this important and this large, I know that Stafford kids have stayed here a little bit later to attend the assembly, and they also receive all of the same information in their emails that our kids do. So I know, like, whenever I see my Stafford kids, I make sure that they're checking their emails, making sure that they're keeping in touch with us
And then is there a way for them to get over to Stafford after? Are we
We,
accommodating them so that they can take part in this? Because they are still our students, even though we're paying for them to go to Stafford.
Yeah, we do this.
I just want to see that everybody's getting a fair and equal opportunity.
Yeah, we do this several times throughout the year with events like this. We'll run, so we run a Stafford bus with Pulteney.
I know
So
that.
what we'll do is they'll run their first run with the Pulteney students and then loop back and pick up our students so they can stay for the
Okay.
assemblies.
So
or
you're
whatever.
coordinating that so
Yes.
that the kids do have that opportunity?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
For testing this year, our first test is on October 9th. It's the PSAT. We currently have 40 students registered for that test, which is about 20 more than we had registered for it last year. So that's great. On the 22nd, we have the fall SAT. Registration is still going on for that right now, so I don't have any current numbers for that one. November 12th, we have the ASVAB. In March, and we don't have a testing date for that as of right now, but in March we'll have our spring SAT, and then in May from the 4th to the 15th is our AP testing window. So any day throughout that time, morning or afternoon, will be when we have our kids sit for our AP tests. And that is all that we have in our presentation. Any other questions? Yes.
I have one last question. Is your ranking within your class important anymore when applying for college? Like, I know when I was applying, it was like, well, you know, we only accept top 10% of your class type of, is that still a thing? Or?
How does that work in a small school compared to, you know?
That is a question that we probably talk about every year.
Sorry.
And Casey can step in, she's always part of this conversation. We do use ranking when it's necessary for certain scholarships. We've also found that ranking can exclude certain students from scholarships who would otherwise qualify. So our overall policy is that we don't include ranking in the transcript, although that's a conversation that sort of is this perennial conversation that we do have. I don't know if you want to add to that, Casey.
So our philosophy has been we don't want to put any student at a disadvantage. So we have internal ways in which we track that information, so we can provide it when we need to. But as Ben said, it presents some challenges for some students and doesn't for others. So in terms of a student being curious about are they in the top 10% of their class or something, we can provide that too.
Okay, so if a college is asking that on their application, they could get that information.
Yep.
Your Common App asks for it, but you don't have to fill it.
Okay.
Sure. I think this is for one of the counselors, but, so that October 22nd, that's an in-school date, correct?
Yes.
Are the students aware that they can't order the question and answer service if they take the school version? They would have to take the Saturday version to get the question and answers. Are they aware of that?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, SAT has a QAS service, question and answers. And you can order those. And so, you know, you can study for, say, the one in December. Do they know that they can't get that if they use the school day? Same in March?
I'm not sure if they are aware of that, to be honest with you.
I think that's something we could look into.
Well, a lot of kids, they like to get out of, you know, their classes and not get up early on a Saturday, but, you know, I just think they should be aware of, you know, what that would provide them if they did.
I know that we do let students know what their opportunities are outside of our school-based SAT, where they can take the test as well, so they are at least aware of what other locations and dates and times are available.
I have a question from
way back in the beginning.
Okay.
Of that Zello. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Do the students do that like on their own, or do they do that in like, all those sort of, the testing about, your skill set, your career, how you learn, like, do you do that like as a group and, homeroom or whatever we call it, or do you do that and are you just asking them to do that on their own? Like, how do we do that with them?
I can answer this because I've sort of taken the lead on Zello and PLP. So it's done during advisory. It's done a few times throughout. In fact, if it's helpful, I can share the scope and sequence for each grade with Brooke to share out with everybody. We've laid it out so that it kind of has the sequence of working towards, first, I would say a lot of surveys around matchmaking, around careers, colleges, interest surveys, and then when you hit later 10th grade into 11th grade, it's resume building, it's seeking out scholarships, it's looking at career options. And so we've tried to sequence it in that way. In fact, this past summer, we tried to pull back a little bit from Zello for 9th and 10th grade and incorporate more community service with our 9th and 10th grade. So we're trying to blend a community service model with Zello as a platform that's, and we stuck with this because students really find it engaging. It really goes into detail around college and career focus.
Can they do that like career assessment like multiple times over the course? Like
It's
what
built-
they
yeah.
find they might enjoy in 9th grade may not be what they enjoy.
It does exactly that. That's one of the things we like. It's just this continuation. And everything they put in, so if they did community service in 9th grade, it becomes part of the resume they might build in 11th grade. You go through and find careers and you can kind of heart them, what you're interested in at the time, and then you can change it, unsave them, add new ones. And each time we have them go back through, it's always pick 3 more careers and 3 more colleges you might be interested in to try to expand the breadth of what they're looking at.
Thank you.
Yep.
Of the students that are doing work-based learning, how many of them were then hired by the companies they're working with or is similar in that same field?
I don't have exact numbers. I could probably talk to Eliza and get that to you guys. We certainly have some that do. They'll do, they might not be technical apprenticeships, but they'll essentially do an apprenticeship with the company with the intent of being hired full-time afterwards. So we have many that do that. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have some students who are really just exploring a wide variety of different job options with no intent necessarily of going further, but just kind of getting a little sampling. One thing I can add to that too, John, is we're trying really hard to push, I want to say, when we first came into this, some of the work studies probably didn't have as much meat to them as we'd like. We're trying to really push towards, okay, what is a work study? Is it necessarily bagging groceries? For some students, it may absolutely be that. For others, that might not be what we're looking for, how we kind of challenge them within their interests. So we're trying to push that a little bit further.
Go ahead, Jamie. Along the lines of the work study, do you guys approach companies or businesses or whatever, or do they kind of come to you, or do students find
them?
Sorry.
Find their own.
Find their own and bring them and present them to you?
Yes, to all those.
All of those, okay. I was just wondering what the process is of how that comes about. Like, do you have the same ones come back every year? Are they always different? There's
Eliza has a long list of connections that she works off of, and she continues to build that. But we always let the students know that it's not our responsibility to find a job for you. We'll support and try to help out, but we ask students to come, because I think part of what they're doing is also building the skills of seeking out the job, doing the interview, and being advocating for themselves in that field.
So we've had some students take VT, VLC courses lately. Right. How about MOOCs? Do they know about that option? Multiple open online courses. They can take the free ones for no credit, just basically audit them. MIT does them, University of Michigan does them, all these elite colleges and universities offer them. And they can actually, if they pay maybe $300-400, they can actually get credit for them. Are the students aware of that opportunity?
We don't currently offer that as an option. I think we'd have to explore that further because my experience with it too is that sometimes it's not like you're doing assessments that are being graded by that professor because they're pre-recorded. So I think that's something we have to look at and scrutinize. The closest example I can give outside of BTBLC is probably we do assign or give credits to some students that do the Governor's Institute, different than what you're describing, but what it does offer is at least assurances that students are engaging in the content.
So you're talking about whether to put it on the transcript or not?
Yeah, whereas what you're describing oftentimes is essentially like Carnegie units, like seat time, or do you watch through? I don't think, I could be wrong, and I'm sure it's all flavors, but I don't think there's assessments that go along with a lot of those that you see from MIT or Harvard. Still valuable, but I don't think we've wrapped our head around how that might play into our curriculum.
No, each one's different.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Glenn, can you hit the light switch right back there?
Oh,
Ben's going for it. Ben's got you. All righty. Administrative goals.
Yeah, I shared it with you that day. You want me to read it?
What we do is this, but you can share it with the other accountants on that.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know, I have hard copies if you're interested in hard copies of this. Because some of the print is really fine.
It's okay. It's okay.
Of the presentation we just had.
No, of this one, but I can send you the one that we just had.
He's getting it up there.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting it up there. It's a continuous improvement goals presentation.
I wouldn't mind a copy of the guidance.
The
report.
guidance one, all right, I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll send that out to you and I'll send you all the Zello scope and sequence.
Okay,
Is there anything else I owe? No, that we just talked about? Okay. All right.
You got a job. So exciting.
Sorry, I'm trying to get used to reading glasses here. It's not going well.
Are we up? Here we are. Yeah, you're up.
We're good. All right. So last year, we started as an administrative team sharing with you our goals and the goals that we are setting for the staff in the buildings. And so you can move ahead. All of those goals, maybe.
Just resizing.
Okay. All of those goals are connected to our mission and vision and strategic plan. Our strategic plan runs through 2028. So we have quite a few years left on that plan. And so if you continue forward, and the four main goals in that strategic plan are around developing college and career readiness, establishing community engagement, service, and partnerships, proactively managing productive school environments that continuing fiscal accountability, and maintaining a focus on recruiting, developing, and retaining exemplary educators. Superintendent goals are connected to those. So the 3 areas that I have goals in that were developed with the school board for the next 3 years are around increase measurable student learning and reduce achievement gaps, to expand academically rigorous, real hands-on individualized learning, and to invest in our educators. And these goals for me are set in that 3-year time period. And we just set these goals in the spring. So we've had only a few months to work through those. But really what I'm focusing on with our leadership team is around all of our administrators having a goal that's aligned with increasing measurable student learning and reducing achievement gaps, whether that's in math, ELA, behavior. So it really depends on the building specific data, and they're going to share with you their thoughts on their buildings, individual buildings, and the reasons why they chose specific goals. And then also really focused on the adoption of our supervision evaluation plan this year. We've been piloting it for several years. This year it's a go. We're no longer piloting it, and it's really based on inquiry cycles and working with teachers and administrators on building instructional growth across the school districts, the school buildings. And then with the invest in our educators, really, part of my focus this year is really expanding partnerships, coursework, new pathways, as we look at recruiting and retaining teachers. So how can we help support all of our teachers that are under peer review that might have entered on a provisional or temporary license? Are there better ways for us to support those educators to help retain them in the field and to increase their rate of success in the position? Also, are there ways for us to explore partnerships, for example, with the local university around developing a program for our instructional assistants to work at becoming educators, classroom educators? And so that's a current program we're working on to hopefully launch in the fall of 2026, federal funding contingent, of course, because a lot of that is based on federal funding. So those are some things that you'll probably hear me talk about throughout the year, but those are just some examples. And so go to the next slide. So this is important as it really outlines the relationship. So we started the strategic plan, and then the superintendent school board goals are fairly broad and large. And the central office goals fall under my goals. And then principal goals are getting more specific as they're really focused on their individual buildings and their grade levels. And then you have your assistant principals and special ed admin goals, and then teacher level goals, so that there is a through line between what we're all working on collectively as a district. And that's super important, as you'll hear from a little bit from principals tonight, around how they plan to implement some of their goals in their building. So Casey, I think you're next. And Chris Benway couldn't be with us tonight, so I'll talk a little bit about her slides, but first slide.
Okay. So there's a lot of language here, so I'm thankful that Brooke printed something out for you. But what I would say is my job, as it's outlined, is to collaborate with building level administrators. I don't supervise and evaluate educators. I collaborate with principals to make certain that the resources are in place based on evidence that they have in order to support our teachers with goals that they've set. So as Brooke identified, we've set out to say that we want to see growth across our system in math and literacy. And one change we did make when we were discussing how it is we wanted to measure that is we decided that we were going to also measure growth as well as proficiency. And that's a shift. In the past, we would always just focus on students growing. And we decided that we should recognize when students meet that expectation at a specific grade level based on tools that we use and combine that with students that are growing and potentially working off grade level. You'll notice that there's a lot in kind of a bluish color. We have a lot of different evidence, forms of evidence that we use to try to peel back the layers and figure out how do we support educators with the resources we have available to make them better at their craft, to hopefully then get students to achieve proficiency or reach that expected growth rate in a year. And so in both of my goals, you'll see that we're peeling back layers and looking at evidence that comes from grade books, that comes through conversations that principals will have weekly or monthly with different grade teams, individual educator meetings that happen on a weekly basis with principals, professional development that we plan together, some of which happens at a district-wide kind of level and perspective, others that happen specifically at the school. And that we use all of that again to try to figure out what resources do we need to put in the right places to see our students grow and succeed. Then also, we have a behavioral expectation goal as well. We go through the same model of looking at evidence from a variety of different points to then figure out how it is we can best support educators who are working with students to make certain that they're meeting and achieving our behavioral expectations. That's what I have. Next. Sorry.
And the next one is Chris Benway. So I will try and do it justice. She has two goals. One is specifically around math in grades 3 through 5. We were identified, all of Rutland County schools were identified as school districts who needed additional support in grades 3 through 5 math under for students on IEPs. And so it's a 5-year improvement cycle. So we are working with the state in that specific area. Her goal is to demonstrate a 3 to 5% increase in the percentage of IEP students deemed proficient or nearly proficient in math at grades 3 through 5 and 8 as evidence on the state performance plan. Her other goal is really around the recruitment, the retaining educators. In this case, it's specific to instructional assistants. We have struggled over the years, specifically since COVID, on the amount of employees that request unpaid leave. And this is particularly true with our support staff. And so really building in an even more robust instructional assistant mentoring program, which we started a couple of years ago with Bonnie Lenahan and Linda Corliss. I believe they've come to the board a couple of times and presented on that. And so Chris is kind of taking that over. Since Bonnie's retired, she's taking that over with Linda Corliss. And so really trying to decrease the number of IAs requesting time without pay by 10%. And that's one of the markers we're using because, as you know, we don't have substitutes either. So it really puts a strain on the system when we are constantly dealing with staff attendance issues. So that's something we're trying to work really hard on improving. I think Jared should be next. Oh, so it's
That means we have
Castleton.
Castleton next.
We have tassels in our.
They have a different side. Oh, go back one. No, if you don't go back one.
That's expensive.
I know.
Okay, it's not that
All right,
big.
it's okay if it's
For now,
not.
that's fine, go ahead.
It does not.
I don't know how they got switched.
Somebody.
It doesn't matter.
Figure it out.
Little switch. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jared Danio. I am the new principal at Castleton Elementary School. Excited to be with you all this evening. Excuse me. So 2 goals here. Again, just like Casey said, a lot of text. I'm going to do my best to kind of summarize. The first goal represents the first year of what will ultimately become a multi-year goal for our building. Being that I am new to the building, this goal focuses on establishing a K-6 teaming structure, really kind of focusing on collaboration amongst our grade team partners and cluster teams, building a culture where folks are feeling supported at work, feeling connected to one another, and feeling well equipped to collaborate. We're going to do that through a variety of different, building activities and initiatives to get folks feeling good in the workplace. And then we'll measure that success at the conclusion of the year through our pupil bench survey, which I think you're all familiar with, kind of looking at the collaboration, professional growth, and workplace culture questions, looking to see an 80% positive response rate on those questions. Ultimately, what I would like out of this goal is to establish a teaming structure that is ready and available to do some curricular work next year, and likely at the conclusion of this year as well, where we will come together as cluster teams to look at our horizontal and vertical alignment, considering our strengths in our curriculum, but also the potential for gaps and redundancies. So hopefully, in taking the time this year to prioritize our people, we are in a place where we can grow forward and support our students next year. The second goal is a little more student-centered this year. It is similar to Casey's in that it's behavior-driven. It also has a team component as well, where we're looking to kind of review our school-wide behavior support components and teams, making sure that we have a robust PPIS team at the universal and intensive level, utilizing our ACEs team, so kind of focusing on students who are Tier 2 and Tier 3 needing some additional support, and making sure that we're shoring up our practices around how we support student behavior in our building to ensure that we are providing students with access to their learning. Last year, we had 20% of Castleton Elementary students that received 1 or more major behavioral referrals. The goal for this year is to reduce that by 10%, so 10% school-wide. There's a component of this goal that is specific to last year's kindergarten class, this year's first grade class, who, when I stepped into the position, had a disproportionate amount of behavior referrals, kind of prompting a look at what we're doing to wrap around that particular grade level and how we can be proactive about providing students what they need. So looking for a 30% reduction from the 2025 spring baseline for that group as we kind of build out those supports. Any questions?
Yep.
Yes.
So the 2 things you're focusing on really is teacher supports.
Yep.
And behavioral supports. But I'm not seeing anything about academic supports.
Yeah, that's where that first goal comes in. So in order for us to be meaningful about the work that we do around our curriculum and instruction, our building first needs to arrive at a place where we're comfortable having those conversations and collaborating with one another.
And so you feel that the school is kind of in a not so great spot right now?
No, not necessarily. I think what I found was that we had folks who were relatively siloed in their grade level, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We have a lot of folks who are experts in their particular content area or in their grade level, but I think what's important about the work that we do is that we have a degree of continuity and that we are both horizontally and vertically aligned. And to do that, you have to have a teaming structure. So we have to have a teaming structure in which 3rd grade teachers can reasonably communicate with 4th grade teachers to talk about what needs to happen in 3rd grade writing so that we have 4th graders who are prepared and equipped at the start of that year. And so the emphasis in this first year is really to develop that structure and getting folks out of their individual classrooms, collaborating together as a cohort so that we can then consider what instruction looks like at 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And although the student outcome component isn't necessarily articulated as a measurable piece here, we will regularly look at our local assessment data through Star 360, through PowerSchool, We recently got our VT CAP scores back. So those are ongoing practices in the building that happen regularly anyways. Once monthly, we have a data team meeting. The goal would be then to take the work that we've done this year around teaming, and then when you see a similar goal from me next year, it would be focused much more on those student outcome data metrics versus kind of the cultural piece that you see.
I just really hate to see us lose a year of education growth for our children.
I don't think that that's the case. I think it's appropriate when you have a brand new administrative team in the building. That team needs to take a little bit of time, get the lay of the land, see what's happening in the classrooms, and really build relationships with those teachers.
So as part of this teaming structure, we have teachers that are attending 3 additional meetings each month after school beyond their contracted hours. The first being a full faculty meeting. The second is a cluster meeting. So that looks like our pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade in a group, our second, third, and fourth grade in a group, and then our fifth and sixth grade in a group. That second meeting is really going to be where we do this work in goal 1, where we're establishing a professional learning community, we're building culture, we're establishing trust. The third meeting, which isn't necessarily reflected in this goal, is that data team meeting that I referenced earlier. So although it's not a part of my goal statement, we are still meeting monthly as cluster teams to review student outcomes, make adjustments to our practices, consider our common assessments, also doing that through great team release days where we're collaborating with our partners in our other elementary schools to make sure that there's continuity from building to building. So although this goal focuses on relationship building, collaboration, and culture, we're certainly continuing to emphasize that students are continuing to perform and improve at a rate that we would expect. Yes.
I liked what you said about gaps and redundancies, and I've been part of a situation where we're siloed, the teachers are siloed, and I think that's your instincts are very good with that.
Yeah, the pace is busy, and I feel like all too often we end up, very comfortable with our great team partner. Making the time for that vertical alignment and having those conversations is more challenging. In that top goal, you'll see that there's a reference to a biannual vertical meeting. That would be where I would look to take this goal in that second year, so that we're really thinking about, again, how do we take what's happening at the second grade level and make sure that we're adequately preparing students for third grade. Are we making sure that we're hitting all of those key components so that when we pass a student on to the next teacher, they're feeling ready and equipped to instruct that student at that grade level? Yes.
You mentioned an 80% positive response rate on the pupil bench survey. What is it currently?
It's not far below that, I'm going to be honest with you. It depends on the particular question. So there are subsets of questions that fall within those 3 categories: collaboration, professional growth, and workplace culture. Generally, as a district, we've performed well in all of those measures, and at Castleton Elementary School, we're no exception. I would say that we hover in the mid-70s, so we're looking for a marginal increase. But I would say that even marginal improvement there is positive. Just wanting folks to feel good about coming to work, connected to their teammates, and ready to grow forward.
On May 28th, we have the People's Bench survey results in our email. We talked about it at a board meeting. So you can look in there.
I was going to say, you'll get to see them. Yeah.
In goal 2, he listed what it is currently, and then you're looking to go to. I just figured in the goal, you should specify what it is.
And I would say with the People Bench, the benchmark does change because it's compared to the national benchmark, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there.
Comparing it against last year or something that we can look to do, we can update that goal language. Awesome, thank you.
We have therapeutic next, or was Benson next?
Benson's next.
I think it's Benson.
I'm gonna go back.
We'll take whoever.
They got switched.
I don't know how it got switched because it's right in my slides when I bring it up. So.
Blame it on
Walter's taking the
It's okay. We'll just
have to find your joy.
switching up the slides. Is it?
Hello. Before I talk about my goals, I want to do a thank you to some people because what they've done in this first 4 weeks of school has tied into the goals that I have for our school around early literacy. We were unable to secure a long-term sub with a teaching license for our 3rd grade this year. We had an amazing sub, Rebecca St. Peter. But I really do want to extend a huge thank you to Casey O'Meara, who came in every day to teach the FHUMHS literacy program. Amanda Eddy gave up a 45-minute block every day to come in and teach writing with the kids. And then Laura Budd came in every day to do social emotional learning so that this group of kiddos could really hit the ground running, which we think is so important. And it was a giant collaboration of folks. The kids were very excited about this. And I was their math teacher the last 4 weeks. So again, it really does take a village, and it just ties into how important we feel reading is. And that's why I've kept one of my goals the same this year as well. We're really looking at early literacy and beyond, up to 6th grade at Benson. And what we're really trying to do is strengthen our literacy practices across the board in a collaborative process. And we're doing this through observation and collecting data. We've got our teachers talking with one another. They're going to be going in and looking at each other's literacy practice. We've already started in staff meetings talking about different ways for our students to access, engage, and grow in literacy. They've started some theater workshops in K-1-2 where the kids are, you would think, just through play with puppets and a little theater, but they're developing stories. They are starting to use imagination. They're talking about things and getting more interested in literacy. And our goal is to provide students with more strategies and practice. So when they do take the STAR and the Cognia and they're working on CBM measures and STAR with Orwell, reading fluency, high frequency words, that they're growing there. They're getting stronger in that whole process. We'd like to see more growth from all of our students, and that's why we wanted to keep one of our goals the same this year. And for me, it's using a lot of observation and student assessment data to help those teachers and to say, what is it you would like? Think out of the box. And we are, as I've even mentioned to Casey, we're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at literacy this year. Fabulous ideas have come up in just the first few staff meetings we've had. Teachers are collaborating together with our upper grades and lower grades. Really just want to make sure students, that we're supplying every possible way to get them to love reading, grow with reading, adapt all the skills and strategies they need, not just to take an assessment, but to become lifelong readers, because we really feel that's one of the most important things. Even our math scores, our kiddos can do the mathematics. It's the reading within the math problem that usually stops them right away. So focusing even more on our Bridges vocabulary words that come with each of the units and how do we use those. So that's where we're at. Questions?
What reading program are you using at Benson?
It's not necessarily a program, so there's lots of components. In kindergarten, it's very phonics focused, and they're using.
And what program are you using for that?
We use Zoophonics.
Zoophonics.
For that early piece, and then we have bookworms for our reading and ELA later on. But teachers are also bringing in their skills and their strategies, and especially in the younger grades, unique and creative ways to get kids just to interact with letter sounds, vocabulary words, trying to increase that. We have quite a few students this year that did not attend any sort of pre-K, not good, bad, or otherwise, and just making sure that we're really supplying that foundation for all of them. So as they progress through the grades, much like Jared was saying, we want to make sure as they're moving to that next grade that we have provided every opportunity for them to engage and grow as far as they can in that year with their literacy. The end result being we would like to see improved scores on the STAR and the Cognia, but truly have kids who have strategies and skills to really master literacy.
So not a solid program like Orton Gillingham, and that's what you're following?
No.
Is what I'm asking.
Yeah. And for, we have intervention supports and things like that. And we have the Wilson program. Amanda Eddy is very versed in whatever a child needs once they've been assessed if they're in an EST program. But for a lot of kids, it's center-based. There's a teacher table. The teacher's working with a collective group of kids, usually no more than 3 or 4. And then kids are doing other centers with reading. All of our grade levels are doing, we used to call it SSR, silent sustained reading. reading within their own books within the classroom. We're increasing our libraries within the classroom as well for students. So kiddos in the upper grades are reading 20 minutes a day in their own book. We're also doing, every teacher's doing a read aloud every day. So in our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade homerooms, they're getting a read aloud from the teacher every day. It's engaging text. They're asking questions of children. So really trying to immerse kids in a lot of different literacy styles, hearing, fluent reading, experiencing all of that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that I personally think you guys are doing a great job, because my boys come home with vocabulary words. They surprise me sometimes with how they speak and the words that they use and the books that they've read in class and on their own. I'm impressed with one is 10 and one is 8, and they come out with words that I would never expect them to use. So just want to say good job.
All right, thank you. All right, at Fairhaven Grade School, I have 2 goals as well. The first one is on increasing student engagement and achievement. The first part of this goal has been a long-term goal, actually. It started when we began our training on this instructional growth and improvement process that we now have adopted as a supervision model. Because we had to do some focused walkthroughs in our buildings and identify some areas that were areas we wanted to show growth in. And at that time, and I believe it was the year of COVID, one of the things that was noticeable in our building is that the teachers were doing a ton of talking, but students were not. And it was even hard getting students to respond to teachers' questions. So we spent a lot of time working on student talk, how to engage students in really rich discussions about their learning with each other and with adults, with their families. Then COVID hit and we weren't allowed to talk unless you were 6 feet apart. So then we continued to do that work. And we had some turnover of staff in Fairhaven Grade School, so we continued to do that work for sustainability. And then we moved that work into getting kids talking about goal setting. But before they could really be good at goal setting, they really needed to have a clear understanding of what they were learning, why they were learning it, and how they would know they were successful. So we've been spending time working on those skills, and there was a presentation to the board last year around that. We have some teachers that are in different places in these research-based instructional practices. And as I have new teachers come to Fairhaven Grade School, they get caught up to speed on these practices with working with me as well as our coaches. I meet with all new teachers on a weekly basis, their first year, and bi-weekly their second year. And these are some of the strategies that we talk about, and then they get feedback when I go into the classrooms and do walkthroughs. And we measure the student engagement through our PBIS survey as well that students fill out. And students provide feedback based on their goals. So even when I walk into the classroom and I ask kids, what are you learning? They can tell me what they're learning, why they're learning it, and how they're going to be assessed. And that's the goal. That increases that shows that they're engaged in their own learning if they can tell you that and they can set goals. The second part of that goal is to support teams in identifying problems in learning, whether it be in social emotional learning, reading, or math, and also some instructional practices that they want to grow and try out in their classroom to address those problems of learning. And that's through working in professional learning communities. Jared touched on this a little bit. Professional learning communities is a strategy that you can use with tools to help teachers collaborate with one another. We don't get training in how to collaborate. We tell people to go in a room and work together, but there's an art to this. And it really starts with teachers understanding each other, their values, their strengths that they bring to the table, You need to develop relationships, you need to develop trust to be able to work closely together. And professional learning communities, that's part of this work. We started doing some of this work last year, and we are continuing it this year. And in practice now, grade teams are going to be meeting weekly, once a week, looking at their behavioral data. We're starting at that area because everybody has behavioral data, right? And behavior is one of those areas that burns teachers out and can get teachers to leave our profession. And with the superintendent's goal of retaining teachers, quality teachers, we need to support them with that. So our grade teams are meeting, looking in EduClimber at their, which is a new platform that we're using this year. So it also is giving them practice in using this platform. They're looking at their behavioral data. They're identifying where are we having some problems and what are we going to do about that. So as grade teams, they're doing that work weekly and they're creating action plans. So for example, if they're noticing that they're getting a lot of kids having minor behaviors in math class. Well, what are we going to do about that in math? You know, maybe they are going to start math really talking about the stresses and the anxiety that math can cause and give kids some strategies on how to handle that anxiety instead of demonstrating behaviors to get out of the classroom or avoid the work. The next part of that, our cluster teams are going to meet monthly and they're going to support the grade teams around this. So there's a little bit of more vertical discussion about behavior as well, to talk about ideas on what they could do differently, learn from each other. The other component is also to talk about the PLC practices that they're using and how those practices are working for them in their collaboration time. Goal 2, again, is about building that team's capacity to work collaboratively in professional learning communities. We want teachers to really think when they're planning to define what they want students to know, how they will know if they've learned it, what will they do if they haven't learned it, and what will they do if they already know it. And this is a new problem. It's an exciting problem to have. Many of our students who may show proficiency are not meeting their growth target. They're not stretching themselves. So we have to start our planning thinking about what are we going to do with the kids that already know this skill. And teams need to work together to be able to do this. But as you know, Jared was talking about building teams, part of the training has to be about how to work together as a team. So the other components of that, we're using our early release days for vertical team meetings where the teachers are going to get together and they will take time talking about math and take time talking about reading, look at student progress, where is their growth, where is there some problems, and what are we going to do to address those problems? What are we going to teach? How are we going to teach it? And how will we know if they're going to be successful? We will also be doing some trainings on how to work as a team. One of the biggest struggles that teams have is how do we manage conflict? When you have conflict in a team, when you get a bunch of teachers at a table, they don't like to address the conflict. So our first full in-service day in October, we're doing a full training with all of our teachers on how to step up to conflict, how to do that work. Our next in-service day, teachers are going, which is in March, teachers are going to be demonstrating some of the work that they're doing. They're going to do little mini workshops and they're going to show their colleagues some of the work that they've been doing around these skills. And then hopefully it'll spark some interest and we'll get some teachers who want to go and observe in their classroom and do a peer observation and learn more from their colleagues. We have a very talented staff in Slate Valley, and they can learn so much from one another, but we have to give them the structures and the time to be able to do that. So those are the two goals that we're working on and how we're going to use our early release days to address some of that, and our prep time and our team time. Any questions? Yes.
So this kind of is for Castleton, Benson, Fairhaven, Orwell. grade school, kindergarten, and this is not really, well, it's a little bit about what you're talking about, but this is our first real year with COVID babies in kindergarten that were born in COVID. And I'm just wondering, next year when you come back, you might have a little piece that you could share with us, like what did you see the effects on these COVID babies that were born in the COVID year?
Well, we're seeing a lot less kids. Our kindergarten class
I
across
know.
the
Well,
district
that's
is
what I'm
only
saying.
67.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really
very
small
small.
kindergarten
I
class
know.
for us.
And do you
and-
think that, okay, so you'll come back next year maybe and share
Sure.
with us what you're seeing, what can we do, and where are these kids at, and what we can do to,
Yeah.
because they didn't have the social piece, they didn't have a lot of pieces that kids had. Parents were
Well, I think
afraid.
we've seen that honestly in some of our
Preschool.
primary grades now.
Yep.
Because those are the kiddos that, well, and when you want to talk about behavior also, it's the upper grades were the kiddos that were in preschool, kindergarten, and first grade, right?
Right.
And those were the kids that didn't have the socialization
Right.
opportunities. Those are the kids that didn't get taught those early social skills, how to play, how to share, how to interact.
I say this, and it sounds silly, but it's like taking a puppy away from the mother, like at 5 or 6 weeks old, and in here, you can raise the puppy now, and didn't get the full piece that it should have had with the mother dog, you know what I'm saying?
I think that
So I'm
the
really
trends that
curious
we've
to see
seen
how
in
the behavior
are
goes
a
they're gonna
result
be.
of some of the COVID experiences
Right.
that
Okay.
our youth have had, for sure. Any other questions? Yes, Mark?
You mentioned you're doing an in-service around conflict.
Yep.
Is that conflict among adults? Or
Yeah,
among
yes.
students? Or?
Yeah, so when you have conflict, it's around adults. So when you're working in a team and there's conflict, if you have differences of opinion about how something should be done, how do you manage that conflict?
Okay.
Yeah. We're never taught how to work together as adults, right? We're never taught.
And we were invited, we did this as an administrative
Yes.
team this
Yep.
summer, and then Doug's invited our teachers, so Benson teachers will be participating with the area teachers on that day too.
Absolutely. Again, if we want to retain good teachers, we have to really do a good job of helping them feel like they're part of a school community, help build those relationships with their colleagues, and give them leadership opportunities and let them know that their voice is heard and they're a valued member of our team. If you can create an environment where they feel that, they're going to stay. It's a very competitive world out there, but not all schools are a place that you have those connections with people. And what I hear from people all the time is I stay in Slate Valley because of the relationships and the colleagueship that I have.
Well, would you include in that feelings of conflict between, say, administrator and teacher and aide?
Absolutely. That's all of it. Absolutely. And we actually have the representatives from the VPA coming to do the training with our staff, the same training that we took as a leadership team this summer. It was that powerful. You need to be able to have hard conversations. And as adults in education, we tend to avoid those hard conversations, whether it's with your administrator or whether it's with a colleague.
Yeah, what I remember was just not wanting to step on toes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you need to understand that it's not stepping on toes. You're on the same team. Your goals are the same. You might have an opinion that's different than mine, but your opinion might stretch my thinking. And then I might be on board. You know, but you've got to be able to have the courage to have those hard conversations. And that's a skill that's taught. You know, we don't just learn that naturally. And everybody comes with their own values and life experiences that impact how they approach working with other people.
Just another really quick question.
Sure.
Maybe you can answer it.
I'll
'Cause you're
try.
good at this. So the zoophonics program?
Yep.
Is each school doing that, or just?
So each
just
school
Benson?
is teaching reading through the science of reading.
Okay.
Which, again,
I just
reading
looked
is
it up,
very
so I was
different now,
curious.
Sue, from when we were kids. Those
Right.
basal readers that our teachers had.
Well, the whole language is kind of out the door and we're pulling in phonics, which is good.
It's all of it. There's 5 elements of literacy. There's phonics, phonology, there's vocabulary, there's writing, there's comprehension. All of those pieces are so critically important.
So like this zoo piece that they're talking
So
about?
zoophology is a tool. It's
part of
not a curriculum.
Okay.
It's a tool.
Just one of your tools that you're
Yes,
using.
we've got
not-
Reading Simplified,
Because
which
not
is
all
a tool.
all the children, they're not all going to fit into this.
Exactly.
What I was looking at anyway.
So like
You'll
Gillingham
find-
is for a specific
Right.
profile of a student. So when
Exactly.
you
So
mentioned
the
that earlier,
zoophonics
we do.
reminded me of that and said. Yeah, so teaching today is much more diagnostic.
Right.
It's not a
Cut
canned
and dry.
program and
No, I
you
know.
read the question that's in the textbut that publisher wrote that thinks it's a good question.
Right.
You know, you have to be really diagnostic and you have to observe and pay attention to how students are doing things. And depending on how they're doing them, you're going to shift how you teach it.
Right.
You know, and the district provides a variety of tools that teachers can pull from to use in order to teach literacy. It's not just a canned approach.
Okay.
And all elements of
That's what I was
literacy are
wondering. I
taught.
thought she said they were using zoophonics. I thought, is that the only thing they're
No,
using?
no, that's one tool.
One tool, okay.
Again, teachers are looking at their students overall,
Okay.
bringing in so many different
Yeah.
strategies.
And the state now mandates specific science of reading
I
training.
know,
for
I know
all
that, but I was
teachers.
just
Yeah.
wondering, Vincent, I just thought, well, is that all we're using? Because it's
No.
not going to fit every child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Thank you.
Well, I had a college professor told us that brevity is the soul of wit. My goals are not nearly as complex as my predecessors, and neither is my presentation, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet for all of you. As we did last year, we're continuing with our writing initiative to achieve our goals up here. What we're doing is establishing a collaborative instructional writing culture with both our teachers and our students. Now, we have 2 different cluster teams that we're going to be using this year. We're doing a K-3, which will be facilitated by one of our district coaches, Molly Clark, and we're doing a 4-6, which will be facilitated by our writing guru in-house 4th grade teacher, Jen Lislocki. It's interesting, the K-3 team and the 4-6 team are all going to be setting goals on writing skills that they're going to all work on and focus on for each month. And then they're going to get together and collaborate, look at student work, and see how that work is going. The K-3 is interesting because they want to work on some peer observations. And they're going to start slow, and they're going to work their way up until we do some team teaching in each other's classrooms. The 4-6 team is going to be working on integrating bookworms, the 5-paragraph essay, and what's really important is they don't want to lose their voice, and they want to make sure we do lots of authentic work. That's in a nutshell what we'll be working on. What questions do you have? Going once? Going twice? Thank you, folks.
So this is when I would, as a teacher, if I was still a classroom teacher, read the room, and we would like stop what we're doing and take a movement break or change course, because I feel like everybody's just slowly deflating with listening. But it's not my agenda, so the best I can do is speak kind of fast. First of all, I want to pause and just say thank you. This is, knock on wood, everyone, the smoothest start we've had to a middle school since we have been a district middle school. It has felt good. Our kids are meeting the expectations right off the bat. Teachers are feeling really, really positive about the start of the school year, and it feels fantastic because the first couple of years of this were really, really hard for people. So I want to pass all the credit on to the teams and the teachers that have done a tremendous amount of work. I will say over and over that you do not create the students you want in middle school, nor do you create the students you want, high school students you want in high school. You grow the students that you want. So it's the work of all of these elementary schools and elementary principals that then kind of feed into the middle school. And we get this collection of kiddos coming from different places with different experiences. Ultimately, my goal is to continue working with those students to grow students who head into high school curious about learning, asking questions, knowing how to seek out information and answer their own questions. I think that's incredibly important. And I think it's up to our teachers to teach in a way that encourages those questions from students, that encourages our kids to think critically and to reflect on their own thinking and their own learning. For example, I went into one of our middle school classrooms the other day. It was a day of a summative assessment, and before they were doing that, the teacher had a prompt on the board, and students were asked to reflect upon how did you get ready for this summative assessment, specifically what things did you do, and how do you feel right now? So helping the kids kind of make that connection between either I did nothing to get ready and I'm feeling really nervous, or I did this, this, and this, and I'm feeling good and ready for this assessment. So continuing to grow that type of work with our middle school teachers. And that's that first goal around leading with a focus on inquiry-based learning, increasing student opportunities for curiosity, critical thinking, and metacognition. I do have that as a 2-year goal because I think we have a lot of room to grow with that. And I need to get a baseline for where my teachers are. Some teachers are there and they do this naturally. This is how they teach and how they work with middle school kids. And others have a lot of room for growth. Others are brand new and I need to get to know them and who they are as educators. The second piece is about supporting teachers in strengthening the relevance of and their student connection to learning by ensuring that all of our instructional staff is engaging in monthly data reviews focused on adapting instruction based on student interest, lived experiences, and assessment data. So often when we look at things like our VTCAP data or SBAC or NECAP or whatever it was called in whatever year, you see a dip in middle school. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's not always about the test. Sometimes it's about who students are developmentally, and they stop seeing the importance of that. They're not elementary school children who want to please or impress educators or parents. They're starting to rebel against some of that, and they care very little about a test whose results come in months later, are not reflected on their report cards, and sometimes are never discussed at home. So working on us as a staff, looking at this data, looking at our STAR data, and making sure we're also getting to know our students, and we're trying to help create scenarios in which our kids feel more and more connected to the curriculum and like they have more and more of a voice in the curriculum and what they're learning in the classroom. And I'm going to stop. Any questions? Going once, twice, gone. Then it was up.
Okay. I'm gonna actually start at goal 2. It feels a little bit more concrete, and I like to start more concrete. So, and this is a collective goal. Jen didn't have it as, I think both of us probably have multiple goals, and we sort of just picked out 2. So, this one is really around curriculum alignment 7 through 12. We actually started this last year with our teams at the end of the year. Started really prepping our middle school and high school to come together as a group, start, as an example, start looking at math 7 through 12, looking for those gaps and redundancies, identifying scope and sequence. We've actually laid out sort of a multi-year, 5-year goal that includes, goes so far as to include down the road common goals, common strategies across the 7 through 12 curriculum. So that's more of a concrete goal that we're working on this year. We have about half a dozen dates that we've already set aside where teams are going to come together, particularly around our in-service days, and work through this together. My top goal is more of the passion that I have for this role, and it's really about instruction. So at the high school, we've been working through this for several years. We use a framework called DataWise. DataWise is sort of like an 8-step cyclical data assessment framework that forces teams to sit down, slow down their judgment of what is the data telling us, and really start picking through it. And ultimately, the goal is to identify areas that need improvement, and this is key, look at what is the problem of the teacher's practice that addresses those areas. So we worked through that several years ago, and we continue to work through this cycle, and each year we're kind of building more and more of what we do. And we have this based on our 6 departments at the high school. I'll use math as another example, where the team worked through, identified student areas of concern, student areas that needed focus, and then started saying, okay, but what are we doing as teachers? What's the problem of our practice that we need to bring into the classroom? For the math department, the example that they've been focusing on is around real-world application, especially around word problems. So then that identifies the problem area, but it doesn't really identify what is the instructional practice that you're going to bring as a whole team, and you're going to implement with fidelity 9 through 12. So what they did last year, each department, was identify specific strategies that they're going to use, began implementing them last year, and it's continuing into this year. This year, we're really pushing hard to open up the instructional practices that you see in classrooms to all staff. So we have one example in our October in-service. We're going to have teachers teaching teachers. So specifically around the strategies that they're implementing, bringing other teachers in, showing how they use it, how they implement it in their classroom. We have a group read that we're doing at the high school called Rigor by Design, which really goes through stages of rigorous instruction and what it takes to implement these strategies. We also have, and this has been an initiative I've been slowly pushing over the past year and a half, I would say, getting teachers into each other's classrooms in a manner that is safe and is ultimately going to be at the benefit of those coming in as observers. Like, what am I seeing that I can take away? What am I seeing that I really liked? Not as something of like, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that, but what can I take away from my colleagues? So the focus is really on instructional improvement with specific strategies. Each department has come together and decided to have a goal that is common across their department that focuses on the strategy that they're putting in place. Questions?
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, on to Act 73 discussion. So in your board packet was a review of the draft letter for the school governance preference that would be sent to the task force. I don't know if anybody else, because I love this stuff. I went to the task force and started reading other people's kind of responses and how they're feeling. And I don't know if anybody knows VT Digger. There's a school district that has decided to reconsolidate after they unconsolidated. It's not even a word, but they reconsolidated. So there's a lot going on out there. But I just wanted to get you guys' take on that letter, if you had any thoughts or things you wanted to share before we sent it on to the task force. Anyone?
Are you talking about the letter that you guys drafted, or the?
This is the one that's attached. The Slate Valley Unified School is committed to working with the state of Vermont to fulfill the goals of Act 73. Mm-hmm. That one.
Yeah, I looked into that further, and they're just some supervisory unions who kind of preempted, and reached out. And I don't think this was at all coming from the state. It was coming from them. They're hoping
You mean
to.
Greater Rutland?
There are others. I read an article it was from the Northeast Kingdom. What's the paper up there? The Newport. But there's some supervisory unions up there that are trying to get in front of this because they want to stay supervisory unions.
Yes.
But I don't think that movement is coming from the state.
No, but the state is talking about how do they want to reorganize as supervisory union or as school districts. And
Well,
we're
they-
getting a lot of pushback
From
supervisory unions to stay supervisory unions. And we want to make sure that they hear our voice and say that's not what we want to do.
And I was asked to testify at the redistricting committee next Monday on the benefits between a school district and a supervisory union, the pros and cons. And so, I mean, I plan to say that, you know, we support a school district and the reasons why.
But she was asked because the person who asked her was like, I'm really unaware that people like school districts more than supervisory unions. Like, there's just not a lot of awareness of
I
what
think
the
there are a lot more of us, aren't there?
school districts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
But a lot of the lobbying is around keeping that supervisory union in a lot of cases to protect independent schools and school choice.
Does the Superintendent's Association have a position?
The majority of the superintendents in the association prefer school districts, but there are some that are advocating for supervisory unions. And in some of those cases, it's because their school boards want a supervisory union and they're not, you know, able to voice a different opinion on the matter. So I would say yes, the Superintendent's Association wants school districts.
So, any thoughts on the wording of the letter? So our thoughts are, if anybody's been kind of keeping up, I know Brooke sends us in the news, but there's been a couple little snippets out there about what's going on in our district, in our county. And Brooke and I did not feel that it was positive. It was kind of more like they don't want to talk, right? Instead of understanding the circumstances underneath the conversations that were happening. So how would you guys feel about also putting this in the Rutland Herald as an article?
As an
independent. Yeah, as an independent, as kind of a statement from us so that there's an understanding about what we're coming, where we're coming from.
Well, because I think that some of the articles made it seem like you all were willing to work together and consolidating around a school district, but it was just that you were saying no to a supervisory union.
Right.
So I think
I think we need to make it clear where we stand.
that you're willing to have discussions, but you're not interested in the supervisory union strategy.
Yeah, the article in the thing with the Addison, it just said, it made it, there was one
sentence.
sentence.
Yep,
It made it sound like we didn't want to have anything to do with anybody.
Yeah, and I don't think that was your intention, so. And that happened in the Herald too, it was actually the Rutland Northeast School Board meeting. I don't think Lisa sent that in the news either, because it was just a one-off sentence, basically, that Slate Valley's not interested, which isn't exactly how your conversation went.
Right.
So you would tailor the wording to a letter to the editor type of?
Either that, or I would just share that we submitted this to the task force. Right? I mean,
It might be too long. I don't know.
I don't know.
Might be a little long.
Might be a little
I
long
think
for
it
it.
is.
Okay. So yeah, I can definitely take the better parts of it, right? Because they don't need to know that we want to work with the state of Vermont to fulfill the goals of Act 73. So there's sentences I can remove.
Well, I think the Herald has a 300-word limit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Unless you can get it in as a commentary.
But we can work on that. I can work on that. Yep. But if you guys are okay with that, I'd like to get something out into the Herald that just kind of lays it out a little bit better. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you. And then board correspondence. Okay. So I received another email. This was kind of an FYI email. They were not asking me anything. Oh, where'd she go?
I think many of you might have received.
You all received
Well,
it.
I think there were a couple that were left off, maybe some of our newer board members.
Well, it was a letter about decoupling education with infrastructure. And
The
from
excess spending
It was from
threshold.
Woodstock, the Woodstock board chair is who it's from, or their supervisory union board chair. I don't know, the Woodstock board chair, I don't know. What was her name?
Carrie Barstow.
There she is. I found it now. Harry Bristow.
Bristow.
We didn't answer it. We just wanted to let you guys know that. There's going to be no answer to that because it was just an FYI. This is what we think. Here's some information for you. She didn't ask anything. She didn't want anything.
Well, they're
so
trying to
we didn't answer
get
it.
school districts to sign on and lobby for the decoupling of the bonds from the excess spending threshold. Yeah.
I'm thinking we really should, there's a committee on school construction.
Yes.
And I think we should be waiting to see what comes out of that committee. And hope that good things will come out of that committee.
Right. Yep. I also think we've done a really good job of managing our budget and our facilities. And this would not help. You know what I mean? Like why they didn't. So that's part of where they're at. Because it would put them over the excess spending threshold.
And so there is a contingent of districts that want that decoupled, recently passed bonds or want to pass bonds. And so personally, I mean, I don't agree with the decoupling.
So I just didn't answer. So I didn't want you guys to think that I think.
It's not going to benefit us.
What?
Well,
It's not going to benefit us.
we have everything paid off, correct?
Yeah.
It's not going to benefit.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're not even close to the excess spending threshold.
We do
But-
have a bond, we make bond payments. The
Fairhaven
Fairhaven
grade
grade
school.
school
Right.
bond is
Yep.
last.
Oh, I
But it's
still
almost
think in terms
gone.
of the high school.
Yeah. But we're not even close to the excess spending threshold, so it's not an issue for us. But no, even if we had a bond, it wouldn't be an issue for us. So
But I just wanted, since she sent it to most people on there, I just wanted to let you guys know we didn't answer it. We didn't do anything with it. So,
and I would advise you against signing on for that. Yeah, that's up to you.
I don't think anybody's in favor of that, right? Okay, good. All righty. All right, so we are on to committee reports, building and grounds, Peter.
All right, we talked about, well, the elevator's still in progress. We're working on that. We're hoping to have some numbers pretty soon and go out to bid in November. And then Chris gave us a list of the projects he thought we should do, ranging from boilers to lighting to doing some work in the kitchen in the high school and a whole host of things. He's going to come back with a list and more numbers at a later point to go over some of that and pick out which ones we can actually do or think we can do.
Okay.
Okay, any questions?
All right, policy committee, Janice.
We reviewed a few policies that just are required to be reviewed every year. Our wellness policy and then the Title I family parent involvement policy. We've removed policy B8 which is the electronic communications between employees and students because of the new state law. Our policy no longer complies with that law, so we'll be reviewing that at our next meeting. And then I need to warn two policies tonight. Policy D6, which is minimum, optimal, and maximum school district average class size. We made some changes so that it complies with the new educational quality standards. And then policy D8, selection of library materials. The VSBA put out an updated model policy, so we've updated ours to match that. So I'm going to make a motion to warn policy D6, minimum, optimal, maximum school district average class size, and policy D8, selection of library materials.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? You'll see that obviously the changes when you get them attached to your next school board packet for them to be voted on. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, Janice, warned. That's it?
That's it.
All right, that's it. Can you believe that took us so long? That's why we were late, all that fun time. All right. Okay, public comment, second time around. Roseanne, step to the mic, or take a mic, or whatever with the mic right now. There we go.
Is there any way we could have
the letter you're going to be sending to the Rutland Herald also included in the Lakeside News and Rutland Sun?
I can submit it to him, but no guarantee it will be printed. But we're happy to submit it to him.
My other question is, has the policy committee, and I could have just easily missed this, has there been any discussion on policy of the public being able to ask questions during a presentation?
Remember, we'll have to go back and look.
We'll look.
It would not this year, we haven't discussed it, but this school year, because this was our first policy meeting. I believe we discussed it in the spring, but we'll have to go back and look at the minutes.
What was there any outcome, or was it just?
I believe there was no change in our policy, so I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But I'll double check.
As far as being able to ask questions like during a presentation like tonight, as opposed to waiting until the end for public comment?
Right.
Okay.
It's just, by the time I got here, I couldn't remember the questions I had throughout the presentation. So it would just be easier. I know we can't ask you guys questions during the meeting, but when you have something like that, it would be really great to be able to ask questions as they go along.
Thank you. Anybody online, Walter?
No hands raised in the virtual audience.
All right, thank you. All right, we need to I need a motion to go into executive session for personnel.
And I would say Ben and Jen would stay.
Yep, Ben and Jen
So
stay. Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, go for it. Run, personnel.